Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something, well, truly immense. It's the journey of a new medicine, from that first idea in a lab all the way to, well, to you, the patient. It's honestly one of the most complex things we do as humans, a real mix of deep science, big money, and just sheer determination. So, our mission today, we're going to unpack this whole intricate process from the science, the regulations, which are different everywhere, by the way, to actually getting it onto the market and launching it successfully. We want to give you, our listener, a real understanding of the hurdles, the breakthroughs, maybe even some surprising facts along the way. Turn this complex beast into something clear.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating path because, every single pill, every treatment, it represents this enormous investment. We're talking billions of dollars, often decades of work. So understanding this pipeline, it really helps appreciate the science, yes, but also the economics, the human effort involved.
Okay, so let's dive in. This incredible journey, it starts way back, right? Deep in the lab with discovery. What does that actually mean in this context? Sounds a bit magical, even.
Yeah, can feel that way sometimes. Basically, the initial phase is like a really focused hunt. Scientists have to identify a specific target molecule. Could be DNA, RNA, protein, maybe a metabolite, something crucial to a disease. Then the real work starts, finding compounds that, interact with that target the right way to get a good therapeutic effect.
Like finding a key for a very specific lock.
Exactly. A very, very specific lock.
And this isn't just one quick step, I gather. It's broader. There's strategic research, exploratory research.
That's right. Strategic research is about finding and really validating those targets, making sure they're the right ones. Then exploratory research is more about generating potential hits, compounds that seem to work, and refining those into leads, promising candidates.
And I hear technology is really changing this game now. AI, genomics.
Oh, absolutely. Traditional lab work, biological assays, they're still critical. But now, yeah, we use virtual screening. Computers can sift through maybe billions of potential compounds way faster. And AI, text mining, genomics, they help us pinpoint targets from massive data sets much more efficiently. It's a different world than even 10 years ago.
Billions, you said. So out of maybe thousands, millions, even billions tested, only a tiny, tiny fraction moves forward. It's like a funnel, right? An incredibly selective one.
Extremely selective. And that funnel continues into what we call preclinical research.
Preclinical. Okay, so what happens there? Still in the lab.
Yeah, still in the lab and also animal testing. The main goal here is basic safety and efficacy.
Yeah.
We need solid evidence before we'd even think about trying it in humans. It's a crucial filter.
But I guess animal models aren't always perfect predictors.
That's a really important point. They can sometimes be misleading. Unfortunately, what works or is safe in an animal might not be in a human, and vice versa. So it's useful, but not definitive.
Okay, so if a compound makes it through preclinical, then we get to human testing, clinical research. And that has phases, right? 4 of them.
Correct. 4 distinct phases, each with a different primary goal. It's a very structured progression. Phase 1, that's usually a small group, maybe 20 to 100 people, often healthy volunteers, sometimes patients. The main focus, safety. How does the drug act in the body? What are the side effects? What's a safe dose range?
Got it. Safety first, then phase 2.
Phase 2 expands things, maybe up to several hundred people, and crucially, these are people with the disease we're targeting. Here, we're really looking at efficacy. Does it actually seem to work? While still monitoring safety, of course. And interestingly, data from late phase 2 can be really important in some places like Japan for getting onto a priority review track.
Okay, efficacy. And phase 3, that sounds like the big one.
It is. Phase 3 involves hundreds, sometimes thousands, maybe 300 to 3,000 people. This is where you definitively confirm safety and efficacy on a larger scale, often comparing it head-to-head with existing treatments or a placebo. This is usually the data needed for approval.
Right. And then phase 4, that's after approval.
Exactly. Phase 4 is post-approval, ongoing monitoring, thousands of people using the drug in the real world. You're looking for any long-term effects or maybe rare side effects that just didn't show up in the smaller, earlier trials.
Wow. It's such a rigorous process. But even with all that testing, the success rate is still really low, isn't it?
Depressingly low, yeah. Only a small fraction, maybe 10% or so of drugs entering phase I trials ever actually get approved.
10%.
Many fail along the way. Lack of efficacy, unexpected safety problems. It happens a lot, even in late stages like phase 3.
That's incredible. It really highlights this tension, doesn't it? How do you push for truly radical breakthroughs when the odds and the financial stakes are just astronomical.
It's a massive challenge. And the industry is always looking for ways to, well, improve those odds, or at least make the process more efficient. One innovation is adaptive trial designs, or ADs. The FDA actually encourages these.
Adaptive, how does that work?
It means you plan potential modifications into the trial design from the start, based on the data as it comes in. So maybe you adjust the sample size halfway through, or you could even drop a treatment arm if it's clearly not working. The goal is potentially shorter trials, fewer patients needed, maybe lower costs.
That sounds really smart, much more flexible. But you said potentially, is it catching on widely?
Well, that's the paradox, isn't it? Despite the benefits, adoption hasn't been as fast as you might think.
Why is that? Is it just too complex, or are companies maybe a bit risk-averse?
It's a bit of both, I think. There is an increased risk of error if you don't manage them perfectly. It requires some specialized statistical know-how
Uh-huh.
and, yeah, maybe some limited practical understanding or just inertia has slowed things down. It's a hurdle.
Okay, so ADs are promising, but maybe not a silver bullet yet. That probably leads companies to explore other avenues, right? Like finding new uses for old drugs. I think that's called drug repurposing.
Exactly. Repurposing or repositioning. You take a drug that's already approved for something else, or maybe one that failed for its original purpose but was found to be safe, and you see if it works for a different disease.
That sounds much faster and maybe cheaper, since you already know a lot about its safety.
It definitely can be. Faster, less risky, more economical. The classic example is thalidomide.
Ah, yes. That has a complicated history.
Very. Originally a sedative, withdrawn due to terrible birth defects, but later found to be effective for leprosy and multiple myeloma. A dramatic repurposing success story.
Fascinating. But it can't be that simple, surely. What are the catches with repurposing?
You're right, it has its own challenges. Sometimes you need to tweak the molecule slightly for the new disease, but that might trigger needing new safety tests. Patent issues can be really complex, especially for older drugs where patents might be expiring or unclear for new uses, and figuring out the right dose for a completely new condition that needs new studies too. So it's promising, but not always straightforward.
Right. So let's say a drug makes it through all that science. Now it faces the regulators, and it's not just one regulator, is it? It's this global maze.
Oh, absolutely. A real kaleidoscope of approvals needed. Each major region has its own agency, its own rules.
Like the FDA in the US.
Right. The FDA requires an IND investigational new drug application before you even start human trials. Then later, an NDA or BLA, new drug application or biologics license application for the final approval. And they have strong post-market safety programs, like MedWatch.
Okay. And Europe, that's the EMA.
Yes, the European Medicines Agency, they assess based on the overall benefit-risk balance. The CHMP, that's their main committee, evaluates the applications. An interesting aspect is they often consult external experts and patients during the review, and companies pay fees that contribute to the EMA's costs.
Patients involved in the review, that's different. What about Asia? Japan, for instance.
And then PMDA is key there.
Yeah.
One big thing, applications have to be in Japanese. That's a hurdle in itself. And critically, the PMDA focuses only on the scientific approval. Pricing and reimbursement, that's handled separately by the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare. Two different gates to get through.
Oh, okay.
Japan also has a priority review system, and they can sometimes use that late phase 2 data we mentioned for serious or rare diseases. They also have a conditional accelerated approval path.
In Australia, Canada,
Right.
similar systems.
Similar principles, different specifics. Australia's TGA classifies medicines and has a multi-step process. Canada's Health Canada requires a Notice of Compliance and a Drug ID number, or DIN. But one helpful thing globally is the Common Technical Document, the CTD format.
CTD.
Yeah, it's basically a standardized way to organize and submit all the drug information. Most major regions, including Canada, the EU, Japan, and the US, accept this format, which makes simultaneous global submissions much, much easier for companies.
So it's a complex web. Getting the science right is one huge mountain, but then navigating this global regulatory landscape is another. No wonder it takes so long and costs so much. Okay, so picture this. The science is done. The regulators have finally given the thumbs up. Approved. But that's not the end of the story, is it? Getting it to patients is a whole other ballgame.
Not at all. Approval is just permission to market. Getting
Yeah.
it to patients, getting it paid for. That's market access.
Market access. So define that for us. It sounds like the bridge between approval and actual use.
Exactly. It's that critical link. Ensuring the drug is not just available, but also affordable and accessible to the people who need it. A recent review actually broke it down nicely into 5 dimensions. getting the right products to the right patient at the right price, at the right point in time, and in the right place or setting.
Right place, right time. Examples.
Sure, like ensuring access to orphan drugs for rare conditions, or maybe ensuring medicines are available through properly accredited pharmacies, especially in, say, developing regions. It's about the whole pathway.
Gotcha. It's this whole ecosystem you have to navigate. And a massive part of that, especially in some countries, is proving cost effectiveness, right?
Yep.
Enter the HTA bodies.
Precisely. Health technology assessment bodies, think NICE in the UK, ICER in the US,
Hmm.
their job is essentially to evaluate the value for money of new treatments. Do the benefits justify the cost for the healthcare system?
Let's talk about NICE first. National Institute for Health and Care Excellence in the UK. They use something called a QALY.
They do. The Quality Adjusted Life Year, or QALY. It's their core metric. Basically, it tries to measure both the extra length of life a treatment gives and the quality of that life. 1 year of perfect health equals 1 QALY. 2 years at 50% quality of life would also be 1 QALY. It's a way to quantify health gains.
Okay, that helps clarify it. And NICE has specific cost thresholds for what they consider value.
Generally, yes. They usually consider a drug cost-effective if it costs somewhere between £20,000 and £30,000 per QAY gained, roughly 25,000 to 38,000 US dollars, give or take.
But I heard they might pay more sometimes for severe diseases.
That's right. They have what's called a severity modifier. They're prepared to weigh the QALYs gained more heavily, essentially pay more per QALY for treatments targeting very severe conditions. They measure severity in a couple of ways. Proportional shortfall looks at how much quality or quantity of life is lost compared to what current treatments offer. Absolute shortfall looks at the total QALYs lost over a lifetime due to the disease itself. So yeah, they give extra weight if a disease is really bad.
That makes sense, prioritizing the worst conditions. Now, across the pond, the U.S. has ICER, the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review. How do they approach it? Similar thresholds.
Similar concept, different numbers, and maybe a slightly different framework. ICER aims for sustainable access to high-value care. They look at budget impact, now over a 5-year horizon, which is longer than they used to. They acknowledge that too short a focus could be perverse, potentially undervaluing expensive but highly effective cures.
And their cost-effectiveness numbers.
Their threshold range for voting tends to be between $50,000 and $175,000 per QELI, and their benchmarks for what they consider a value-based price usually fall between $100,000 and $150,000 per QELI, so generally higher than NICE's standard range.
Do they consider other factors beyond just the QELY number?
They do. They explicitly look at other benefits, things like, does it reduce treatment complexity? Does it help reduce health disparities? Does it lessen caregiver burden? Is it a truly novel mechanism? And also contextual considerations like high severity, high lifetime burden if it's the first drug for a condition. Things like that.
You mentioned something striking earlier, that even though drug companies comment a lot on ICER reports,
Yeah, they're the most frequent commenters by far.
it rarely changes the final conclusion on cost effectiveness.
That's what the analysis shows. It suggests ICER's process is pretty robust, or at least that their core value assessment is hard to shift significantly just through comments. It definitely highlights the challenge companies face in demonstrating value that resonates with these HTA bodies.
A real challenge. And these HTA processes, combined with pricing differences, lead to some stark geographical gaps in access, don't they?
Absolutely stark. ZS data for 2024 showed, 15 novel first launches in the U.S.
15.
compared to just 1 in the EU.
One. That's a huge disparity. And didn't you say many U.S.-launched drugs never make it to Europe?
Yeah, fewer than half of the novel drugs launched by first-timers in the U.S. between 2011 and 2024 had subsequently launched in Europe by early 2025.
Why? Why aren't these drugs reaching European patients?
It often comes down to economics and complexity. Lower prices and reimbursement levels in many EU countries compared to the U.S. is a big factor. Plus, the EU market is fragmented. You have all these different country-specific requirements, HTA processes, pricing negotiations. It adds layers of complexity and cost to launching there.
So it's just harder and less profitable to launch in Europe for some companies.
For some drugs, especially from smaller companies, that seems to be the calculation, yes.
And this has shifted where companies set up shop too, right? Switzerland becoming more popular.
Exactly. Post-Brexit, Switzerland has really emerged as a preferred spot for European HQs for non-EU biopharma. Even though labor costs are high there, things like favorable tax policies, regulatory stability, and a really deep talent pool make it attractive.
So the takeaway is stark. Scientific innovation is global, but patient access is definitely not equal. It heavily depends on these economic and regulatory hurdles region by region.
Right, so let's assume a drug has cleared the science hurdles, the regulatory maze, and has a decent market access plan. You'd think it's smooth sailing now, but apparently not. Launching is still incredibly risky.
Oh, incredibly. The statistics are pretty sobering. Bain and Company found nearly half of all drug launches underperform analyst expectations.
Half.
And over a quarter, 25%, fail to reach even half of their external revenue forecasts. That's a lot of disappointment, a lot of value potentially left on the table.
Why? What goes wrong so often? Is the drug not good enough? Or is it the execution?
It's often the execution or maybe a misunderstanding of the market. A Deloitte study pointed to key reasons. Limited market access biting harder than expected, that came up 57% of the time. Also, inadequate understanding of the market and customer needs, 47%. And poor product differentiation, 41%. Basically not connecting the drug's value to what doctors and payers actually need or perceive. And differentiation is getting harder, you mentioned, because competitors arrive faster now.
Much faster. That window of exclusivity before a similar drug hits the market has shrunk dramatically. It used to be maybe 8 years back in the early 2000s.
8 years, okay.
Now, it's closer to just 4 years on average. So you have much less time to establish your drug, get doctors comfortable with it, before there's another option vying for attention. Makes standing out absolutely critical.
So given this pressure cooker environment, what does work? Bain identified 3 things that successful launch teams get right. What are they?
Okay, first, they differentiate through messaging, post-launch data, and services. It's not just about reciting the phase 3 trial results. You have to effectively communicate all the benefits, clinical, non-clinical, maybe even economic, in a way that resonates with prescribers, payers, everyone involved, and keep generating data after launch to reinforce that value.
Makes sense. Go beyond the clinical trial packet. What's number 2?
Second, they create broad customer advocacy through a superior customer experience. Don't just focus on the top handful of key opinion leaders or KOLs. You need broader support. And honestly, pharma companies often get poor marks from doctors on helpfulness, a negative net promoter score in some surveys.
Oh,
Yeah. So there's a huge opportunity to simply be more helpful, answer medical questions quickly, help identify the right patients, connect doctors with peers using the drug. Better support builds loyalty.
right, better service. And the third factor, you said it's often undervalued.
Yes. The third one is about how you organize the launch. They organize it as a micro battle with continuous frontline feedback. This usually means a dedicated cross-functional team, maybe 10, 20 people, led by someone Bain calls a launch CEO, someone with real authority to make quick decisions.
A micro battle team.
Exactly. And crucially, this team is constantly gathering feedback from the field, from sales reps, medical liaisons, doctors before, during, and after launch. And they adapt quickly based on that feedback. They adjust the messaging, the tactics, whatever needs changing. It's about agility.
That agile, feedback-driven approach sounds key, especially with that shrinking window you mentioned. You have to learn and adjust on the fly.
Precisely. And IQVIA adds another layer here. They estimate less than 10% of launches truly achieve excellence.
Only 10%.
And they say 80% of a drug's long-term fate is sealed within the first 6 months after launch.
6 months. Wow, no pressure then.
Yeah, it's incredibly front-loaded. And IQVIA highlights the absolutely pivotal role of medical affairs in achieving that launch excellence.
Medical affairs. Okay, we hear that term a lot. What's their specific role in a successful launch, according to IQVIA?
They see MA leading across 3 strategic pillars. First is healthcare system readiness. Medical affairs teams develop a really deep understanding of the local health systems, the patient journey, the typical care pathways. They can objectively identify barriers for patients, for payers, for doctors, and then help co-develop solutions to overcome them.
Like fixing bottlenecks in the system itself.
Exactly. They mentioned the Angels Initiative for Stroke Care as an example, working to improve hospital readiness. So innovative stroke therapies can actually be used effectively. MA helps pave the way.
Okay, system readiness. What's the second pillar?
Second is content-driven interactive engagement. Medical affairs builds trust with doctors early on, often before the drug is even approved. They provide balanced, scientific information about the drug, its mechanism, its risks, and benefits. This allows for deeper peer-to-peer discussions than, say, a sales rep might have. And it generates valuable insights back into how doctors are thinking. Plus, they're increasingly using an omni-channel approach, tailoring educational content and delivery across different channels for each doctor.
Personalized, science-focused engagement. Got it. And the third pillar.
The third is timely and compelling evidence. Medical affairs plays a huge role in shaping the evidence generation plan, working across R&D, market access, commercial teams. They identify gaps in the evidence needed for launch and beyond. And critically, they harness real-world evidence, or RWE.
RWE data from actual clinical practice, not just trials.
Exactly. RWE is crucial now to demonstrate ongoing value, differentiation, maybe guide optimal use in specific patient subgroups. It complements the clinical trial data and is vital for payers and physicians. MA orchestrates getting and communicating that evidence.
So medical affairs isn't just supporting the launch. They're really integral to shaping the environment, the message, and the evidence needed for success, bridging that gap between the pure science and the messy reality of healthcare.
That's a great way to put it. They make the science relevant and accessible in a very crowded, complex market.
But even after a successful launch, the job's not done right. There's ongoing monitoring.
Absolutely. The vigilance never stops. That's post-market monitoring, or pharmacovigilance. Once a drug is used by potentially millions of people, you need systems to detect any rare or unexpected adverse reactions that didn't surface before. Agencies like the FDA have programs like MedWatch and MedSun specifically for this. India has its pharmacovigilance program. It's a global necessity.
A constant cycle. It really underscores that bringing a drug to market isn't a single event, but this continuous process of development, launch, monitoring, and adaptation. Hashtag outro. Wow. What a journey we've covered today. It really is staggering when you lay it all out. From that initial spark of discovery through years of trials, navigating dozens of regulatory bodies worldwide, then the complexities of market access and pricing, and finally the high-stakes execution of the launch itself. It's just an incredible feat of science, logistics, economics, and sheer human effort to get these vital medicines to us.
It really is. And I think understanding this whole pipeline, it helps us appreciate what's behind every prescription we pick up. It's not just the cost of the chemicals in the pill. It's the cost of all the research, the failures along the way, the regulatory burden, the effort to prove value. It all contributes. It's a system built to save and improve lives. But yeah, it's under immense pressure and constantly trying to evolve.
A truly fascinating deep dive into a world most of us rarely glimpse. So, for you, our listeners, something to think about as we close. Considering all these intricate layers, the innovation, the regulation, the market strategies, the costs, what do you think is the biggest untapped opportunity out there right now for actually speeding up patient access to the truly life-changing therapies that are being developed globally? Where could we make the biggest difference? Something to ponder.